There's a sound you probably haven't heard in years, a little crackle of static, a click, and then a voice, calm, unhurried, drifting through the whole store like it belonged to the building itself. Attention Kmart shoppers, 5 words, and somehow, wherever you were standing, whatever you were holding, you stopped because something was about to happen, something fleeting, something you could only catch if you moved right now. That was Kmart. And if you grew up in America between the 1960s and the 1990s, that sound is buried somewhere deep in you, next to the smell of popcorn you couldn't place and the memory of a Saturday morning that felt like it could last forever. It didn't last. Nothing that good ever does. Close your eyes for a second. Try to go back. The parking lot was enormous, a sea of asphalt with that giant red K rising above it all, visible from 3 blocks away like a lighthouse for families with nowhere better to be on a Saturday. You didn't need GPS. You just looked for the K. The doors slid open and the air hit you differently in there, warm and a little waxy. Popcorn from the stand near the registers, something cooking in the back that you couldn't quite name, but your body recognized immediately as comfort. The lights hummed, the floors were polished but worn down the middle from a million carts rolling the same paths. Every store had that same specific kind of tired but clean, like a diner that's been open since before your parents were born, but the coffee is still exactly right. And then the family would split. Your dad disappeared into automotive. He'd be back there for an hour, talking to someone who actually knew what parts fit his car. Your mom headed for housewares. And you already knew where you were going, the toy department. 6 full aisles of everything you'd seen on television that week. Stacked floor to ceiling. Close enough to touch, not close enough to open. You didn't buy anything most Saturdays. You just looked. You planned. You built a Christmas list in your head that would take years to get through. And somewhere, in the middle of all of that, without any warning at all, a blue light would start spinning on a metal pole somewhere across the store, and the intercom would crackle to life. Attention, Kmart shoppers. Blue light special in housewares, 15 minutes only. The whole store would pivot, carts change direction. Someone's grandmother moved faster than she had all week. It didn't matter what the deal was. You moved because the light was on, because it wouldn't be on for long, because something about scarcity and urgency and belonging to a room full of people who all heard the same thing at the same time made it feel like an event. That was the first flash sale in retail history. Before apps, before notifications, before any of it. Just a spinning light on a pole and a voice that felt like it was talking to you personally. When the shopping was done, you met in the back. Every Kmart had a cafeteria, not a food court, not a kiosk. A real cafeteria with yellow glass panels and counter stools and trays you'd slide along a metal rail. The kind of place where the older folks would line up at 4 in the afternoon like it was a proper restaurant, because for them it was. Burgers and hot dogs, ham sandwiches with the mustard heavy unless you asked for light, apple dumplings with a warm vanilla sauce that was basically melted ice cream poured over the top, and nobody minded at all. Later they brought in Little Caesars, pizza slices and crazy bread, while your mum compared towel prices 2 aisles over. Some people swear that Little Caesars tasted better inside Kmart than anywhere else. It probably didn't. But it felt like it did, because context changes everything, because you were 7 years old and you just spent an hour in the toy aisle building dream castles in your head, and now you were eating pizza between sporting goods and electronics, and your whole family was there, and nobody was in a hurry to go anywhere. A TikTok video asking who remembers the Kmart cafeteria got over 200,000 likes and nearly 11,000 comments. people writing paragraphs about the smell of the food, about sitting at the counter with their grandmother, about the bench near the entrance where you drink something red and cold and watch the automatic doors open and close and open and close. That's not nostalgia for a discount store. That's nostalgia for a kind of afternoon that doesn't exist anymore. And Kmart was where it lived. Here's something most people don't know. Kmart didn't start as Kmart. It started with a man named Sebastian Kresge, a traveling hardware salesman at the end of the 1890s who watched what his customer, Frank Woolworth, was doing with his 5 and dime stores and decided he could do the same thing. In 1897, he put $6,000 of his savings into a store in Memphis, Tennessee. 2 years later, his partner took Memphis and Kresge kept Detroit. That Detroit store became the seed for everything that came after. By the 1920s, there were over 250 stores. Nothing in them cost more than a dime at first, and then a quarter, and then $1, but it didn't matter what the ceiling was. People came because they could afford what was on the shelves. During the Depression, while department stores collapsed, Kresge stores stayed open. Business held steady, because when money is tight, the cheapest store in town is the last one to close. That lesson would define the company for 60 years. Forgetting it is what eventually killed it. In 1959, an executive named Harry Cunningham started traveling, not to offices, but to discount stores. He visited every one he could find and studied what worked and what didn't. He came back with an idea for something bigger, something built for the suburbs, built for families with cars and Saturday mornings to fill. On January 25th, 1962, the first Kmart opened. By the end of that year, 17 more had opened. By 1981, the 2000th store. At its peak in 1993, Kmart had 2,486 stores, over 2,300 of them in the United States alone. 350,000 people working the registers, stocking the shelves, spinning the blue light. Revenue hit $37 billion. They were the biggest, bigger than Target, bigger for most of the 80s than Walmart. And then they forgot who they were. In 1991, some executive decided the blue light special was outdated, so they turned it off. The one thing that made them different, the one thing that lived in people's memories 30 years later. They stopped doing it because someone in a boardroom thought it didn't fit anymore. You can't kill the best idea your company ever had and expect nobody to notice. It wasn't just the blue light. The stores hadn't been renovated in decades. The lights were yellowing. The floors were scuffed past the point of charming. And behind the scenes, the technology was stuck in the 1970s. Kmart couldn't track inventory in real time, couldn't see what was selling and what wasn't, couldn't drive prices down the way they needed to. Walmart had done the opposite. While Kmart was buying bookstores and drugstore chains and trying to open locations in the Czech Republic and Singapore, Walmart was pouring everything into its supply chain: real-time tracking, automated reordering, centralized warehouses. They moved into small towns and farm towns, places Kmart never bothered to go. Target went the other direction. Stylish, modern, clean, what they called cheap chic. And Kmart sat in the middle, not the cheapest, not the nicest, not the most convenient, just there. By 1990, Walmart had passed Kmart as the largest discount retailer in America. Revenue peaked in 1993 and then dropped nearly $3 billion the following year, with a loss close to $1 billion in a single 12-month stretch. The spiral had begun. On January 22, 2002, Kmart filed for bankruptcy, the largest retail bankruptcy in American history at the time. 600 stores closed, thousands of people lost their jobs. Every store in Alaska gone. They came out of bankruptcy, smaller but alive. That should have been the turning point. Instead, it got worse. A hedge fund manager named Eddie Lampert had been buying Kmart's debt while the company was in bankruptcy. By 2005, Kmart had merged with Sears into something called Sears Holdings Corporation. Lampert controlled nearly 40% of it. He didn't renovate the stores, he didn't modernize them. What he did was sell things in real estate brands, subsidiaries. Craftsman went to Stanley Black & Decker, properties were spun off. Sears Holdings eventually sued him using the word fraud, claiming he had transferred billions of dollars of the company's assets for little or nothing in return. They settled for $175 million. One industry writer put it plainly, it wasn't Walmart that killed Kmart. It wasn't Amazon. It was one person. In October 2024, the last full-size Kmart in the continental United States closed. It was in Bridgehampton, New York. It had survived as long as it did because Walmart and Target were both a 45-minute drive away. YouTube channels documented the final days. Reddit threads tracked which stores were still open. People drove for hours just to walk through one more time, not to buy anything, just to be inside one more time. As of now, there are 3 Kmart stores left on Earth. One small location in Miami, one in Guam, one in the US Virgin Islands. 3 from 2,486. Here's what I keep coming back to. We don't miss the store. Not really. We miss what happened inside it. We miss the Saturday that stretched out long and unhurried, the toy aisle where Christmas started in your head, the cafeteria where your family sat between the lawnmowers and the linens and nobody had anywhere else to be, the Icee machine by the registers where being good paid off in cherry or blue raspberry and your whole afternoon pivoted on that. We missed the blue light not because a deal was coming, but because for 15 minutes everyone in the building was part of the same moment. Strangers all moving in the same direction, all alive to the same small thing. That's not something you can get from an app notification. That's not something an algorithm can recreate. That was just a spinning light on a pole and a voice on the intercom and a store full of people who were all, for just a moment, exactly where they meant to be. The blue light is off now, and this time it's not coming back. If you remember it, the light, the cafeteria, the smell of popcorn mixing with floor wax, loading bags into the trunk while your dad talked too long with the automotive guy on I'd really like to hear about it. Leave a comment. Tell me what your Kmart was like. And if this felt like something worth your time, subscribe. There are more of these stories coming about the places that shaped us and the quiet ways we lost them.